Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over the Portland Thorns and their run through the preliminary stages of the NWSL 2020 Challenge Cup. I'll be going over each game they've played so far. I'll be going over the formations and the lineups they put out and basically what I think we can learn and take away from each game they've played so far. And I'll just be giving my thoughts going into the quarterfinals, how I think they're going to do based off of the performances they've put out so far. As always, timestamps will be in the description box below, and so let's get started. Portland played their first game against the North Carolina Courage and they lost 2-1. They came out in a 4-3-3 lineup with Bella Bixby, Emily Mingus, Becky Sauerbrunn, Kelly Hubley, Megan Klingenberg, Angela Salem, Lindsay Horan, Rocky Rodriguez, Marissa Everett, Christine Sinclair, and Tyler Lucy all in the starting lineup. I was surprised that Portland was able to hold on as long as they did. Based off of the starting lineup the Thorns put out, I was expecting this game to be a lot worse than it ended up being. I don't feel like Portland really came out with much of a game plan against North Carolina. I think they were sort of like, okay, we're probably going to lose, we're going to get destroyed, let's just go out there and see how we can do. I don't think that they were necessarily trying to win this game. I think they were just trying to get an idea of what they had to work with. There was no real genuine plan that I really felt came from the Thorns. I felt like they were just out there trying to keep possession and trying to go forward when they could by kicking it. Defensively, they had a new back line, so I think that's something important to note. Becky Sauerbrunn and Emily Mingus has never played together. You don't expect a backline to be solid if you've never played together before. Within the midfield, again, they have a completely restructured midfield. Last year, it would have been Lindsay Horan and Dagny Brynja's daughter and Gabby Seiler and Christine Sinclair, but this year, it's different. We have Rocky Rodriguez, we have Angela Salem, we have Lindsay Horan, we have Christine Sinclair, but again, they've never played together. And especially when you have two holding midfielders who are new to the team, things are incredibly different because they're not used to the style of play they're trying to implement. Up top, I was definitely not impressed. I think this was probably the weakest link of the team. Marissa Everett and Tyler Lucy up top were not really creating any sort of substantial chances. Last year, we would have had players like Haley Rasso and Midge Purse who could have created chances, and Caitlin Ford who could go forward, but they've all left the team, and so we're trying to rebuild. And a key player who I feel like could have really made a huge difference in this tournament if she would have been healthy with Sophia Smith. She's just on another level in terms of technical skill, speed, and vision. She's a phenomenal player. If you've never seen her play, when she's healthy, I promise you she's going to blow you away. I feel like this year wasn't the Thorns' year, just based off of injuries and players who have left the club early and just trades and everything hasn't gone their way. So I think just in all three lines of defense, midfield, and forward, I wasn't genuinely impressed with it. We ended up conceding 2 goals. The first goal came pretty late in the game. There was this very large space that was left on the right side of the field where Megan Klingenberg got caught way too high. And again, this is a theme I've talked about on my channel a lot, is defenders, especially outside backs, getting caught way too high because it leaves this space where forwards can occupy, especially if the center backs can't slide over in time. It's basically just crossing and shooting practicing, and that's what ended up happening. Haley Mace had all the time in the world to pick out a cross to whoever she wanted to, and she placed it perfectly to Dabinia, who just headed it in. Emily Mingus and Becky Sauerbrunn both didn't mark, and I feel like Bella Bixby didn't have to come out for that, but she thought she could get onto it. And just in general, they broke down our back line. We got caught way too high, and we were too slow in our recovery defensively. And then we ended up coming back, scoring a goal. Kristen Westphal had a fantastic cross to Lindsay Horan, who had been working her ass off this entire game. She got ahead on it, beat her defender, beat Dahlkemper, and this one went off of the crossbar, deflected back down, and Abby Urseg and Stephanie LeBay couldn't communicate who was going to clear it, and Simone Charlie ended up getting her foot on it and passing it in the back of the net. It was a great response from the Thorns, but they couldn't hold out on that tie, and they couldn't close out this game, and that's again something that they're going to have to work on because a super similar goal happened the second time. This time we saw that Becky Sauerbrunn kind of got caught out. Sam Mewis took a great touch around her and ended up taking her space down line, and again it was similar to the first goal they scored. She had all the time to pick out her cross and sent it perfectly into Lynn Williams, who just headed it into the back of the net. Again, nobody was marking her. It's just the little things that you have to think about, is closing out a game and marking in the box, and it's just things that can be worked on. And just in general, the team chemistry was something that's not going to come with only a month's worth of training, especially with how limited it's been. So I think in general, I was impressed that they were able to hold on, but I was not impressed just by the fact that how they played. But they were lucky to get out of that game 2-1. Portland played their second game against the Chicago Red Stars and they tied 0-0. They came out in a 4-4-2 diamond with Bella Bixby, Autumn Smithers, Kristen Westphal, Madison Pogarsh, Megan Klingenberg, Emily Ogle, Lindsay Horan, Celeste Bourret, Simone Charlie, Christine Sinclair, and Morgan Weaver all in the starting lineup. The first thing I noticed from this game is that Portland is way too direct in the final third. They are forcing passes and crosses that don't need to be made. They can hold on to the ball and work it around a little bit more and wait for that opportunity to open up. There's no movement up top in a way that's disruptive. As a forward, you want to make side-to-side diagonal runs because not only is that super hard to defend, but not to mention if both forwards are interchanging constantly, it creates a lot of havoc within the defense, and if they can't communicate who to mark who, it is a great way to open up spaces to receive the ball to then go forward, and we weren't seeing those types of runs. We were only seeing straight runs from Morgan Weaver, and so if you make a diagonal run through the back, then you can play a ball into space that they can run onto, but if you're both just running straight, that run is not good enough to be able to receive the ball and then try to create an opportunity from, or the defender is going to step and intercept that pass, and we just didn't see enough creativity in the final third from the forwards who were on the field. Another thing I wanted to point out is that Portland's crosses, I've noticed, are not to a player, they're to a space. If you take a touch and you just kick it into the box and hope someone's going to be there, 9 times out of 10 that's going to get cleared and it's not going to create an opportunity. And so Portland, if they're going to be sending balls into the box, they need to make sure they know who they're playing it to, or they're actually trying to play it to a space or a person that can actually get to the ball, because if you're just kicking it, chances are it's not going to result in anything. And the midfield, there's absolutely no flair other than Lindsay Horan, and the thing is Horan is a player who wants to be absolutely everywhere. She has the freedom to be that type of creative, explosive player, but you don't see that out of anybody else. You don't see Emily Ogle or Gabby Seiler or Celeste Bourret or Salem or Rocky Rodriguez having any sort of flair in terms of skills or technical ability. Now, they're all great at keeping possession. You don't need 5 midfielders who are good at one thing, and so there needs to be more flair within the midfield, more individuality. And again, I think that will come with time with this team. If you have too many players who can't create opportunities and can't create chances, they can only keep possession, you're not going to be dangerous in the final third because there's not going to be any type of substantial attacking chance created from the midfielders. I just think in general the Thorns are missing so many players, and it's been such a interesting turnover from last season with the players who have left and the players who have come in and the players who have stepped up and who haven't, and it's just a team that's trying to find their groove. In this game, I really thought they could have had more goal-scoring opportunities. I think they could have scored. Yeah, it was just unfortunate that they couldn't get a better result than this. In the third game, the Portland Thorns played the Washington Spirit, and they ended up tying 1-1. Their starting lineup was Bella Bixby, Megan Klingenberg, Kelly Hubley, Emily Mingus, Kristen Westphal, Lindsay Horan, Angela Salem, Rocky Rodriguez, Morgan Weaver, Christine Sinclair, and Tyler Lucy. I feel like this was one of the best games Portland played this tournament. They had majority of the possession in the final third. I liked how the way they played out of the back. I feel like Portland is too impatient in the final third. They send crosses in, they send half shots, when they should just settle down and try to keep the ball and work around a little bit more. I would love to see someone on the Thorns take a shot from outside the 18 and test the keeper. I wasn't really impressed with Sinclair. I feel like she's one of those players where she kind of disappears throughout a game, but she has individual moments of greatness that really make up for the lack of productivity throughout the game. And I just feel like this was not one of those games where you saw that. It felt like she was the weak link up top in terms of possession. She would lose the ball or her pass wasn't sharp enough, and I just feel like there was no sense of urgency from her in terms of trying to score. The goal we got came off of a set piece. Lindsay Horan got fouled just outside the box. Megan Klingenberg had a great service in to Lindsay Horan, who started her run pretty wide, but she was able to run just in front of the defenders and get her header off, and that was just fantastic from her. It was a great goal to get her team on the right track, and you could see how much that goal meant to that team, but they couldn't hold on to that, and that Washington ended up coming back with a corner. Now, here's the deal. For me personally, if I'm a team, if I'm a coach, my first rule on defending corner kicks is to always have a person on the front post and the back post. Now, I understand why you wouldn't want to. It's taking players away who can 1v1 mark in the box, but again, one person's taking the corner, and there's always probably going to be at least a center back or 2 center backs in their own half. So you don't really need those extra 2 players to do physical man marking. You can have them on the post. It's not going to be the end of the world. And in this situation, if we would have just had players on the post, this goal could have been avoided. And it's unfortunate because Sam Staub's header went right into the corner where if Klingenberg was on her line, she could have headed it off. They got scored on. At that point, you could see they were frustrated because they thought they had the win and they just couldn't hold out on this result. And it's just unfortunate from them because I feel like this was a game they definitely could have won based off of the performance that they had. The last game, the Portland Thorns ended up playing the Olympic Lyonnais Reign, and they tied 0-0. They came out on a 4-3-3 lineup with Bella Bixby, Megan Klingenberg, Kelly Hubley, Catherine Reynolds, Kristen Westphal, Celeste Bourret, Rocky Rodriguez, Angela Salem, Morgan Weaver, and Christine Sinclair all in the starting lineup. When I saw that Haran wasn't starting, I was like, oh great, we're doomed. There's going to be no creativity in the midfield, no creativity up top in terms of runs out wide, runs forward. Just in general, the physicality Haran brings is completely unmatched, and her desire to score, to create chances is completely unmatched. And so I just felt like this game was going to be lackluster, and it definitely was. Portland's way too predictable in their play. A theme we'll notice from them is they just force the ball in the box when there's no need to do that. I understand if a team's pack the ball in and you're getting frustrated from working it around, then you start sending it in, but that's not what the Reign were doing. Still, there were plenty of chances where I felt like they could have held the ball and just waited for a different run or a different pass or something else that wasn't just forcing the play, because he had 29 crosses. You guys, 29 crosses. Oh my gosh. You go into halftime and you're in the Reign locker room and you're saying, okay, all they do is cross the ball. Let's just head it out. Let's send it out. That's all they're trying to do. So that's easy to defend. We just put more people in the box. That's just so irritating to me because the Thorns don't have a player in that starting lineup who's creative enough, who's technical enough, who has the confidence or even the idea to say, okay, screw this isn't working. I'm going to take the ball and dribble in the box and try to do a skill and go through someone and open myself up a shot individually, and we just don't see that. There are plenty of times where I'm just staring at the screen yelling, shoot the ball, because they're outside the 18, they're within range to shoot, and there's no one pressing them. But they want to work the ball around and wait for a cross that doesn't exist. We had 13 shots, 4 of which were on target. It's just ridiculous. We outplayed them in every aspect of the offensive game, yet we couldn't capitalize on our opportunities. Defensively, I think Kristen Westphal gives her opponents way too much space, and this is not good. Every time she was defending 1v1, I was just screaming, step, 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 because at some point you have to step. Now, if you step and she freaking does a skill move around you and megs you, well, that's unfortunate, but at least you tried. At least there's someone else behind you who can step. But if you're going to sit there and just stare at the forward, stare at Sofia Huerta, and just give her all this space to make her move and take her shot, you've absolutely failed in that job. Your job is to step and cut off that shot, and you didn't do that. And I noticed that a handful of times from her where she'd have the forward dribbling at her, and she would just stand there and give them her all the time and space to figure out what they wanted to do with it. And then even after they got their shot off, she would just kind of stand there, and that cannot happen. And another thing I noticed is that when Kelly Hubley steps to try to make a play on the ball or to head it or to try to make a clearance off of a long ball, she just kind of jogs back into her spot when there's a play actively going on behind her. She needs to be sprinting back so she can get the numbers back that we need, because we noticed towards the end of the second half, Taylor Smith got this opportunity where she 100% should have scored, but she played the ball wide, and if Kelly Hubley would have dropped quicker, she might have been able to cut that play off instead of letting Kristen Westphal and Megan Klingenberg run into each other. And it's just small things like that that add up defensively that better teams are going to take advantage of. I just think in general this game irritated me so much. I actually had to stop watching it because I had to go to the dermatologist. And I was just checking the score, and I was like, come on, you guys, what are we doing? And just, if for some reason we make it out of the quarterfinals, it will be because of 3 reasons. Bella Bixby, Lindsay Horan, or God. That's it. There's no other way. And spoiler alert, Bella Bixby and Horan are questionable for the quarterfinals, so This game is in God's hands at this point. It's definitely not a good time to be a Thorns supporter. A lot of pain, a lot of emotional pain. In general, I'm just not impressed with any line. I don't feel like we have a game plan. I don't feel like we've even come close to executing a game plan so far. We have no wins. We've either tied or lost every game. And we play North Carolina in the quarterfinals. And, as much as I love the Thorns, they're my team. Girl, it's just, I want to sit here and say the Thorns are going to do it. But I mean, I've been let down so many times. I want to be realistic. Defensively, we've had so many changes. We literally traded away Emily Sonnet, who had a fantastic relationship with Emily Mingus, so we could get the number 1 draft pick. Who hasn't even played a minute in this tournament because she's been injured. So that was a waste. And then, so we could fill Sonnet's spot, we traded Elizabeth Ball so we could get Becky Sauerbrunn. And Becky Sauerbrunn got injured the first game, so she's out of the tournament. She's not even with the team right now, so stonks, I guess. That was, oh my gosh. Players like Midge Purse we traded. I don't know why. Haley Rasso left because all of the Aussies, for some reason, follow each other and they're all in Europe. Caitlin Ford went to Arsenal, Ellie Carpenter went to Lyon, it's fine. And so basically their whole team left. And Dagny went home to be in Iceland with her son and her husband, and it's just like our entire team has fallen apart. And we don't really have any identity. Yeah, I honestly don't even know what to say. I don't really think there's any type of analysis I can give. If you've been watching the Thorns, you just know they've been awful. It's unfortunate, but it's going to take some type of miracle for them to beat North Carolina. I think they can do it now. Hey friends, I know this is weird. This quality, I bet, is fantastic. But I wanted to explain how I think Portland can win against the North Carolina Courage, and I have a solid strategy. Now, is this strategy sportsmanlike? Absolutely not. But you can't be to play against the Courage. It just doesn't work that way. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull a Sweden in 2016 in the Olympic quarterfinals. We are coming out in a 100% defensive block. We are going to play with 5 defenders, 4 holding midfielders, and 1 forward. If you guys watch the Premier League, did you watch Sheffield United play Chelsea? Similar tactic is what I'm going to implement in my lineup if I was the coach. Because here's the deal. We've seen every single team in this tournament try to bring their own game plan, and we're going to play our own way against the Courage. I don't care what anybody says about my game plan. If I win, then I win, and that's that. And we're going to pack it in defensively, and we're going to get a breakaway. And here's the deal. Up top, I'm thinking either Simone Charlie, because homegirl tried out for the triple jump at the Olympics. She ran track at Vandy. You know she's fast. Or Morgan Weaver, because she's fast, but she also has that desire to score, and she's aggressive and physical. So either one of them up top, they can sub out at halftime, give them each 45 minutes to just... Now, I got a comment saying that they don't think that North Carolina can be beaten with one lone striker, and I agree. Now, I think this is where one of our midfielders is going to have to kind of be a hybrid player. They're going to be, in every way, 90% defense, 10% offense. They're going to be the link from the defense to the forwards. We're not even going to have a mid. We're just defense and forward, and that's it. We're going to get the ball. We're going to dribble it. Preferably, this player is going to be Haran, but I don't think she's going to play in the quarterfinals. I'm praying that she is, because it's going to be awful. If she's not, we're 100% going to lose. But if Haran can play, she's going to be that player. She's going to get the ball. She's going to dribble it forward. She's going to take the space. She's going to bait Dahlkemper, and she's going to send it over top to Morgan Weaver or Simone Charlie, and they're going to dribble off the goal. They're going to score 1v1, and that's my game plan. And if it's unsportsmanlike, I don't care. We are going to win. And if we don't win off of breakaway, we are holding out till penalty kicks. So this is 120 minutes of pure grit and exhaustion and sweat, blood and sweat and tears. And we're going to have to give it all we got. And if they can't do that, then we're going to lose. Because like I said, every team who has played them so far has tried to implement their own game plan. And it just hasn't worked. It's not going to work. We're going to have to do something absolutely radical, because you know what? There is no way that the Courage are training right now thinking that anybody's going to come out against them in a cowardly way. They're definitely not thinking that. There's no way they're thinking this quarterfinal game is going to penalty kicks. There is just no way. You cannot convince me otherwise. If I was Portland, I would be practicing penalty kicks with every single player on the field, including keepers, subs from every line. Freaking Mark Parsons better be practicing. We need to be solid because if we make it to those penalty kicks, that's how we're going to win the game. Yeah, that's my game plan. Let me know what you would do. It is 5:03 in the morning and I need to get this uploaded and go to bed so I can catch the game in 6 hours. But I just think in general, we have no attacking threat. Our midfield is not creative enough. And defensively, we are all over the place in terms of there's no chemistry, there's no connection, and we absolutely suck at passing out of the back. And our number one goalkeeper is injured, and Britt Eckerstrom is, oh my god, she scares me so bad. She scares me more than Abby Smith, and that's saying a lot. Just because I'm stupid and I'm a Thorns fan, obviously I still have faith. I can't write them out just yet, but just in general, it's not looking good going into the quarterfinals. That's all I have time for today. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know how you think Portland's been so far. If you've seen any players who have impressed you who I didn't mention or who have been lackluster. As always, subscribe and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!